The other takeaways, number one, people are very bullish on President Trump being in the White House. They see him as being very pro-market. The defense spending will pick up. We've been talking about defense all year, actually last year also, especially in South Korea and India, because you have a lot of pure-play defense companies. We have increased our exposure there.
But also in the Middle East, you think?
Well, the spending will come from there. And when you start speaking to companies in South Korea and India, they are finally seeing export opportunities that weren't in place before. The other thing that came away from me is there's a lot of focus on NEOM, this $500 billion project, which is slightly behind schedule, slightly over budget. And people associate the Saudi story with NEOM. That connection in my mind broke down because Saudi is not just about NEOM. There are a lot of other giga projects, as they call them there. The progress is proceeding apace, and it's not just about one project. The Saudi story is not contingent on NEOM's success or the completion on time. There's a lot going on the ground.
How are folks thinking about what's happened in Syria and also what continues to happen in Gaza, though?
That actually surprisingly infrequently came up in conversations. Now, I was only there for 3 days. The focus was on the West in Washington, D.C., and the change of administration next month. And then the focus was on the East and developing ties with China, developing ties with India, and the export opportunities for companies from this part of Asia into Saudi, and the diversification away from hydrocarbons for the Saudi economy. It has fallen precipitously, the contribution from oil, the massive infrastructures and the massive investments in infrastructure, in tourism, in the airlines, in hotels, in parks. That is something that you have to go there to see that it is very real. But Syria didn't really come up. Gaza didn't really come up.
Really?
One thing that's interesting is we were speaking to companies involved in the construction industry, and even Saturday morning, Friday night, they said Assad's headed to Russia. So they knew. Yeah. It's a small world for them in that part of the neighborhood. So they knew, but it really didn't come up. And the focus is on 2030, Vision 2030. When we speak to Indian companies, last time I was here, one thing I mentioned was for many companies, they've been saying that this is our largest export opportunity, export market. This is one of our top priorities anywhere in the world. And when I got there, I saw that this is pretty real.
I would have thought, I'm kind of surprised, right, because I would have thought that given what has happened in the Middle East, in Gaza in particular, there would be huge rebuilding and infrastructure opportunities.
Perhaps it didn't come up. The focus, what is also striking is how domestically focused the capital spending is and the attention of the family is and people on the ground. They want to build up Saudi. Nothing changed for a long time, and then a lot has changed. And we'll see how that goes over the next few years.
Yeah, you mentioned that a lot of folks you met in the Middle East, in Riyadh, in Saudi, were very positive about Trump, viewing him as very pro-business. Not concerned about tariffs at all?
It didn't come up.
Really?
It didn't really come up. No, I will be back there soon. I learned enough to know that I'd like to go back. Again, because there are a lot of implications for the companies that we look in the rest of Asia. But also it's a fascinating time to be there. I'm sure if I go back, Gaza will come up, Israel will come up, Syria will come up, tariffs will come up. But on this trip is very focused, the people on the ground very focused on execution, on capital deployment, and on attracting foreign capital to Riyadh. Before, if you wanted to invest in the country or if you wanted to raise capital in the country, it was fine to visit often, maybe to be based in the Emirates. Now they want you to be based there. So when you drive from the airport to your hotel, you see a lot of very familiar names of Western financial firms, one after another, Japanese pharmaceutical firms, Indian companies. You see all the signs and all the logos. And clearly the buildings are brand new. So this is a huge push and pull for both sides.
All right. It is happening.